when we travel, I shoot 3,000 photographs a day. I have 87,000 photos on my phone in the cloud. And I go to my studio every day and I just pick a photo and the canvas that I have and I say, this is how I feel today. So it's an intuitive process and it connects me to the land.
Good evening and welcome to Art After Dark, where you get to learn all about arts and culture in West Texas, and I get to live out my Dick Cavett fantasy. My name is Randy Ham. I am the executive director for Odessa Arts, and it is a privilege to come to you tonight from the Museum of the Southwest, the Lissa Noel Wagner wing of the New Western Landscape exhibit presented by EOG Resources and curated by Bo Moore. Thank you so much for allowing us to be here. We are so fortunate to have two of the artists here tonight in conversation. Sheila Miles was educated at the John Herron Art Institute in Indiana, the Hans Hofmann School of Art in Provincetown, and Purdue University, and exhibited at the Art Spirit Gallery in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, where my good friend Blair Williams owns the gallery, so that made me really happy, and is an accomplished public art artist in the state of New Mexico, where she exhibited in the Kind of a Small Array, which is located very next to the very large array in New Mexico. So Sheila, welcome. Thank you so much for being here tonight.
Thank you very much.
And then we have Greg Piazza. Greg was born in Louisiana and got to Texas as fast as he possibly could, now resides in Dallas. The loss of his brother in 2002 led to the creation of his art. He has worked with Alan Ross, longtime assistant for Ansel Adams, and his work combines the permanent with the ephemeral. Greg, thank you so much for being here tonight.
Thanks, my pleasure.
Let's start with the obvious. When did you start with your art, and why did you start with your art? Rock, paper, scissors.
Oh, okay. I just,
Go ahead.
like when? Like
Yep.
when? I started when I was about 9 years old. I'm one of 6 children, and I think looking back, they made me nuts. And I was a tomboy, and I collected every living thing that moved and tried to make it a pet, snakes and bugs, and started drawing. And, if you want to draw, you can really learn how to draw anything realistically. Like by the time I was 14, I could draw. My mother gave me a book on Gauguin, and I said, that's the kind of artist I want to be, though, right? I want to do more psychological or beautiful, impressionistic work, post-impressionistic work in particular. So I started doing it compulsively, and that's where I started. And I went to John Herron, and I did art all the time, and I've been doing it now for 55 years. I've been showing and selling, and I'm very lucky. It's taking me all over the world. So that's how I started.
Greg?
Well, I started when I was really young as well. I took some art classes, YMCA kind of things, and really never did much besides just dabble with it until my brother passed away. It was actually the day that I bought my first house. And I went to the art store and just said, I don't have any money to buy paintings and things right now, but I know what I like, and I think I'm just going to try to create it myself. And then I basically spent months just going through the grieving process and creating art. And then that just kind of snowballed and just kept going over the years. So I started off as a painter, actually, working in oil, and didn't really pick up the camera until 2008 when the housing market crashed, and figured I wasn't going to sell paintings, so I may as well learn a new craft, and decided to learn photography, and just have taken it from there.
Well, you bring up a very interesting point. When people come to a museum or they come to an art gallery, or even when they experience art just in your everyday through architecture, through film, through music, it is oftentimes a coping mechanism for dealing either with trauma or dealing with what is going on in the world. And so I like to ask my artists, what are the things that you reach out to other than your art that brings you back to the canvas or back to the camera to give you that motivation to keep going? So what is one of your coping mechanisms?
Well, my husband indulges me, drives me all over the back roads. All of my work is sourced in a way from traveling the back roads of New Mexico, Nevada, California, Wyoming. I lived in Montana for 26 years. I lived in Santa Fe for 14 years. I really consider myself a Western artist, which is a little different from what you say, oh, Western artist. We think of that as something different. But I am very much a Western artist, and I'm very much interested in old buildings. I call them architectural landscapes, about a place in time. And they really started with the idea about light and shadow, which is a modernist idea of sort of paring everything down and removing extraneous stuff. But I really do I love old buildings. They warm my heart. When we travel, I shoot 3,000 photographs a day. I have 87,000 photos on my phone in the cloud. And I go to my studio every day and I just pick a photo and the canvas that I have and I say, this is how I feel today. So it's an intuitive process and it connects me to the land.
No, I do a lot of hiking. So I grew up in the bayous of Louisiana. I spent a lot of time outdoors. Unfortunately, Dallas doesn't offer a lot of that. So I travel, and it's always traveling west, it seems like. And so I spend a lot of time just driving the back roads, looking for things that just kind of catch my eye and bring the kind of the inspiration to me. That tree right here is one of those examples where, I was in Grand Teton National Park and crossing a bridge and just saw how the light was only on that one, cottonwood, and just had to stop and, probably try to avoid a couple of bears in that creek. And, yeah, if you saw the story of 399 dying last year, that's the creek that she lived in. Oh, wow. So I was by myself and luckily didn't encounter her. But yeah, I almost let, intuition and just, I don't know, spiritual guide, point me in the right direction. A lot of times I feel like you have so many different directions you can go every day. And for some reason I seem to pick the right ones. And so
that's very interesting that both of you talk about it from a very intuitive perspective. Like you let the moment or the image or whatever is happening influence what you're doing that day. Does that bleed over into like your daily studio schedule? Do you even have a daily studio schedule?
I paint every day, 7 days a week, 6 to 7 hours a day. So yes, and I feel like I've always believed that my brain starts working before I go into the studio. I'm in the studio by 9, and I'm finishing at 2 or 3 in the afternoon, maybe. But and I've been aware of this for a while, but a famous artist, Alex Katz, said that inspiration lasts 3 days. And for me, it's about 5 hours because it's just my personality. I get inspired and I have to do it. I have to start working. So I paint. I'm a very fast painter. And so that's my schedule, is to work every day, even when I'm sick. I'm trying to reform myself a little bit and sit down more. So I do watercolors. I don't know if the audience knows, but my paintings are the oils. This oil right here of the building and the 2 oils at the front of the buildings falling down. It's once called It Wasn't Always Like This. And it's the old building that's falling down, and then way at the very front. And Greg's work are these exquisite photographs, but just to sort of put it in context. So, yeah. I don't know. Did I?
No, you absolutely no. There's no such thing as too much. In art or in conversation,
Yes.
There's no such thing as too much. Greg, what about you? Do you have a daily work that you do?
No, I find it comes more in a little bit of waves. So the traveling will inspire me to go take the photos. And then when I get back, sometimes they live on the hard drive for a week or two before I touch them. Sometimes when I open it up and expect to start working on a certain series or project, I notice another folder that I haven't touched in a week and dive into there. And a few hours later, I'm like, wait, what am I doing over here? I started a new project this year that I mentioned to you that I'm meeting somebody new every single day and trying to take 365 portraits, which I've never taken portraits in my life. So now every single day I am going out with my camera and trying to have more of a routine behind it. But for the landscapes, now it's just as it hits.
So your portraiture is something that's more kind of structured and something that you're making time for, and your landscapes are something that is more about the inspiration and the moment and living where you are. Sheila, you have a quote that is, there is beauty in the detritus of our landscape and the forgotten remnants of a place. And I read that, and then I looked at this exhibit, and the entire exhibit has this theme of isolation, even through Greg's photos, especially the tree that you were just talking about. It's very stark. Can you talk a little bit about why you think that isolation, is communicated through the work here?
Through all of this work, or
yours especially, yes.
Well, I think, I guess I pare everything down. I remove all the garbage cans. I remove all the cars. In fact, I frequently see a building and I'm like, move that car, because I want to capture the shadows. I do portraits. I do a lot of commissions and I do portraits. So I love doing people, but I don't often find people. Amazingly enough, these buildings, I hardly ever see anyone. You go through the landscape of Nebraska, you see buildings. You don't see people. And sometimes I see people and I get so excited if I see a person or I see laundry. I'm like, oh my God, there's laundry. And of course, but I don't know. I guess I look for isolation. Painting is a very lonely process, and I don't want to say melancholic, but there is a melancholia in my work and in me, or something that quiets me, because I'm a loud, enthusiastic person, and maybe that's the balance. I go in the studio, I'm alone, and I focus. I don't think I'm answering your question.
You absolutely are, and there are no right answers to these questions. Process is process, and it's going to be different for each artist. So, everything you talk about is important to understanding your work.
I will say that a lot of my work is about compensation, and so I'll do a lot of bright colors, and people, oh, you're so happy, and actually, no, I'm not happy. So I paint a lot things that I don't have sometimes, and in the chaos of the world. In our lives, I find there'd be a lot of chaos. Perhaps these are a quiet place to retreat for me.
Yeah. And
people say, oh, I want to live there. I want to be there. And I'm going, yeah, I get it. But this is a cabin that's falling down, But yeah, don't we all want to go to a cabin that's kind of falling down for a little bit?
I think it's very interesting. So many people that I talk to, because I will go on the web for hours and look at abandoned structures. I find them so fascinating, and I thought it was just me, but everybody I talk to, I'm sure. How many of you out here have either driven by an abandoned building and wanted to stop and go through? Right, exactly. It's more prevalent than people think it is. But Greg, I want to talk about Ansel Adams and his assistant Alan Ross. How did that come about? Can you tell us a little bit about that story?
Alan kind of will laugh at this. There's another photographer that we know. I'm blanking on his last name now, but I originally had reached out to him about coming to Yosemite to do a workshop with him, and he blatantly replied back, "I don't teach in the summer." I'm like, well, that's when I'm going. So I went on the Ansel Adams Gallery's website and started reading the profile of all of the different photographers they represented, and came across Alan's. And I'm like, oh, well, this guy actually worked directly for Ansel, was chosen as the only person alive to still be able to touch his negatives and make these special prints today. And he lives in Santa Fe, which I go there more than I go anywhere else. So I'm going to reach out to him. And so I did. And I just, sent in my portfolio and said, really interested in working with you. And please tell me if I'm just wasting your time. And he replied back and said, no, absolutely. I love your work. I can see the composition that you're going for. Definitely can help you with, making some tweaks on your prints. And just connected with him. And it's been a great friendship since then.
Wow. Well, you can
And
definitely
the stories that you
see.
get from Alan are priceless, so.
Oh, I can imagine, and you can definitely see the influence in your photography. So, what is it that makes Santa Fe so special that you keep going back?
I love the isolation, the openness. I feel like it's just calming. I live in Dallas, and it's just always busy and people on the go. And I get there, and I just feel my body just completely just relax. And so, and I don't know, I'm just really inspired by the landscape out there. I love the storms that come through in the monsoon season, and it's just a lot to love about it.
Is it instantaneous? Like as soon as you hit the city limits, you just kind of melt, or does it take you a little while to decompress?
I'd say it probably takes me a night to decompress. But coming back to Dallas, by the time I get my car at left field, you can feel the tension right back. So,
yeah, going back, yeah, yeah. What about you? Because you spent 14 years in Santa Fe?
In Santa Fe for 14 years. I love Santa Fe. But my favorite area is the high road to Taos.
Oh, yeah.
If you've ever been there, you're going through these old towns that are all falling apart. And, so, yeah, I love it. I miss Santa Fe. I really miss it. I really didn't want to leave there. But, and I have the same feeling. And, it's really beautiful. And in fact, on the way here, we drove here I live in Oracle, Arizona, which is north of Tucson, and I saw some red rocks. I went, oh my God, there's my Santa Fe, Santa Fe, but.
Yeah, it's a beautiful place.
Santa Fe.
Yeah. Before I go any further, does anyone have any questions? I want to kind of break this up so we don't wait till the very end for questions. I mean, you're here, you've got a captive audience.
We love questions. That's how I learn. Someone asks a question. Yeah.
Well, I mean, you talk about the emotional resonance that these places you go to and meet somebody to, and the image you create, so that's painted or photograph. How often do people sort of respond to it in the way that you did, or do people just have like a variety of responses to it that are surprising or interesting to you?
Well, I think they were. I mean, I think they respond. I had 5 museums shows right before COVID, within a couple of years, of all just buildings, and people really do respond. And some of the people know the places because I'll tile them where they're located. A lot of times I'll say where they are located, and people know the places. And so they do respond. I mean, unless they're making it up, but they do. Yeah.
Do their responses out of both sides of yours, or are you surprised?
Well,
it has a different resonance.
Oh, no, more often than not, people say, oh, I want to be there. I want to live there. I want to go there. Because I think they're feeling the same overwhelmed sort of feelings that I'm feeling, like he's feeling, of the chaos and the noise and the chatter and so I think it's a quiet place to rest. But it is funny that one time I was in Missoula, Montana, and I was staying with a friend. I was having a show there, and I said, oh, Tracy, I don't have a car. Would you drive me around so I could shoot some photographs of these buildings? And I wanted to shoot like 1940s buildings and yellow houses, and because in Santa Fe you have brown, and brown. So when I see a yellow house or a red house, I go nuts. Or a red barn. Anyway, he drove me around to the beautiful brand new construction, high-rise, condos, all that. I'm like, have you seen my paintings?
Yeah.
But those were his idea of a home. Those were his idea of home, of where he was comfortable. I thought it was so interesting. He got it all wrong, but.
Yeah. we wouldn't know anything in West Texas about beige and brown and tan, right? No, nothing like that. Greg, you mentioned that you did painting as well as photography. Do you still paint as well, or did you just find photography and go, this is my medium?
I actually did paint last month. It's been about 2 or 3 years since I've painted, and my wife passed away a year and a half ago.
Sorry.
So sorry.
Hi.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, so I during the holidays I just, started painting again, and it's a lot more. I'd gone from very loose abstraction into very hard edge. A lot of the buildings in Santa Fe that have the modern angles and you get the shadows and all that, those are big inspirations for me to shoot and then create paintings from. And then I went to a whole separate series called Everything Changes Tomorrow, and then developed from that back to very loose abstraction, gestural type brushstrokes and very just fluid type things, and just kind of playing with emotions, how they change day to day. So,
do you find that it elicits different feelings for you with a brush as opposed to behind the camera?
That's a good question. In the field when I'm hiking, I certainly go through a lot of those emotional waves as well, and that's what I'm looking for when I will take the camera out and decide to capture something. It's that moment that strikes me and then fits into one of my projects. So I have projects. One of them's called something to remind you, where it's a lot of trees, or there's a rock in a river and all the trees behind it are alive except for one like pine skeleton, right? And you're like, okay, it's just a reminder that here's the dead's always with you, even amongst the living, right? And so you carry them with you as you go on these journeys, and those are the types of things that I see when I'm exploring. And yeah, whenever I'm painting, I guess it's a little more rapid in the brushstrokes and everything are there, versus sometimes I'm hiking 10, 15 miles to find something. So
it's a very great way of putting that.
Yeah, do you want
we
to
have
answer
another
question?
Yes, ma'am.
So I have a couple of questions for the two of you. I want to know, was something you felt called to from an early age? Because I find that very interesting, though, hey, whether or not they land in a place that they kind of call for early on, or if they grew into a felt it took. And then my second question for you is, we all know that sometimes chasing our dreams doesn't always end bills, and so in one rate, they keep kind of had day jobs, even in a net lane is so, and when it is.
Sure. Yeah, I'll go first on this. So my parents kind of put me in these little art classes when I was younger, but I never thought I'd do anything with it. I enjoyed it. I dabbled around with things. I always liked painting my mom's like ceramics and things like that she would give me. But no, I really, it kind of shocked me when I bought my house and I went to the art store and was just like, I'm just going to paint my own stuff for the walls just because I don't have any money to do it, buy something. So, and then I just was, really shocked at how I reconnected with it and just wanted to keep going and going and going with it. I actually still have a full-time job, so I don't have to have the stress about selling all the time. So it allows me to focus on only creating what I want to create. And, if somebody likes it, great. And if not, then it's just, I get the enjoyment out of it anyway. So.
Is your full-time job related?
No, I'm a tax consultant. Yeah. Yeah. So I have a degree in accounting.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so great.
And
Let's see. What was the first? Oh, I think about art all the time. All the time. I painted on the way here in the hotel. I always paint hotel paintings. So I did watercolors and painted last night. Anyway, but I think about art all the time. I always want to paint. I destroy probably a third of my work, maybe a half. Um, I've been a museum curator for. I was a museum director when I was 23 years old, in Provincetown, and then I was a museum curator at the Yellowstone Art Museum in Billings, Montana, for almost 5 years. Director of exhibitions. I was a single mom, so I got offered a job and I taught at the University of Montana, Montana State University Billings, Montana University Bozeman. I was an artist in the schools for the Montana Arts Council, traveled teaching on all the Indian reservations and in one-room schools for 25 years. I would fit that in, and at times I would have 5 jobs at a time, because I was raising my son by myself, but always painting. So worked for a lot of nonprofits, always very successful and very poor. I mean, I had shows and museums had my work, but even the most successful artists are usually teaching somewhere. I love to teach. I do workshops now. I was in Florence, Italy for 5 weeks teaching as a guest artist. But I can't do it as much anymore because I'm old. I'm just getting older and older and older, and some health issues. But I quit teaching I was teaching full time for a while in Santa Fe. I loved it. But where I'll just be frank, I was making $40,000 a year when I quit and just sold paintings. I make $80,000 a year. So it's sort of teaching. You do it because you love it, and I love it, and I still do it. But I help support 3 people. And I think people don't think about that. I mean, that's hard, and it's a lot of pressure. And it is easier to have a job in some ways, to just be free and paint. 83% of art now is sold on social media.
Yeah.
So, and also grants and jobs and workshops and museum connections, curators, everything is fed through that. So I'm probably on social media 2 hours a day, talking and doing things with people and answering questions, and it's all handled. It's very odd. It's because I am in galleries, and I am old school, where you met the people and they love your work and you know them. Now I don't know a lot of people who buy my work. I don't, and it's got a little bit of a loss, but I'm very fortunate because we all three of us would be in the food lines if I didn't sell my work. But it's not easy. I mean, it's really hard. And I'm just still like a child. Thank goodness. There's a part of me as an artist. I do printmaking. I play, so I can keep it fresh. And, so that it's not just about selling. Right. It's not just, I have to go there and I have to make a painting to sell. I don't do that. I just paint and see what falls out.
Yes.
And I'm incredibly lucky. I'm so lucky.
Well, and that's a really good point that you bring up, and it's because it was such an ingrained fallacy for so many years that to quote be an artist, you have to make your living as an artist. But I know many artists that have 9-to-5 jobs that create on the side, and they do that for that simple fact of I don't want my work to have to sustain me, because then it does give you that pressure, and it takes away a little bit of the joy of having to do it. And then of course there's also all these wonderful ancillary positions like curator and museum director and arts director and things like that. I couldn't draw to save my life. And nor do I really want to, but being involved in the arts allows me to meet wonderful people like this and people out here, and we get to talk about it. And I'm going home tonight and being very inspired about the next projects that we're going to do. And it's a wonderful thing to be able to do that and be a support system for the creators and help give them an outlet like this wonderful exhibit in this beautiful building tonight.
Yeah, thank you. By the way, I have to thank Bo and Catherine and the museum, and
they did. That's a very tough.
You're the other side of it. I mean, we need a place to show our work and share it. So thank you very much. I mean that sincerely.
Yes. Did you have a follow-up? I see it.
Yeah. Like every time you say something, I have more questions, which I apologize. But I wondered if there are some pieces you can't curve it. And if it's just because they're too personal, maybe.
Yeah. Yeah, I have two paintings at my house that I won't sell. So, one from the series when my brother passed away, and then one from the 2018 series that Everything Changes Tomorrow. It's just, yeah, I won't sell them for any price. So, yeah.
Well, that's a very good segue. Thank you very much. Do either of you have either something you're working on or a dream project that's been kind of an inspiration or a concept in your head that you haven't felt like you could get to yet for work reasons, family reasons, like there's just an idea that hasn't gelled quite the right way? Go ahead.
Well, I have hundreds of ideas. I mean, I have so many ideas. Yeah, all I need is pick up a brush. I mean, I have so many ideas. For 35 years, I did automatic painting. So, automatic painting is you just start painting and you see what emerges, and it's a school in the school of surrealism. So it's dream imagery, and it's really real, but it's not real, but it's really real because there it is. So I would just paint, and things would emerge, and then I would stop. So I'd be like a blue horse, a red horse, become a building, and it was how I felt that day. And finally, when I stopped painting, it was like this is who I am in that moment. And in 2015, that work went really dark. That work, my son got extremely ill. The political landscape was just nuts. The social, everything kind of changed. And in my work, again, it's just intuitive, all went with titles like The Soul Thief, and they were really dark. And when I teach, I have students put out their work and look at what they like. Or, just write out what you like. Well, I put it out and I don't like it. I don't want to show it. I don't want anybody to see it. And I was living in Santa Fe, and I had all these photos of buildings. So I thought I was going to take my photographs of buildings that were real, and I was going to curb my imagination, and I was going to do them with like bright colors, and they were going to be kind of cool and fun. Well, they didn't. I went right into realism. So I've only been doing these buildings, these more realistic, they're not really realistic, but representational paintings since 2015 for 10 years. So when you said, is there something you haven't done? I think I'm getting close to making another flip. I don't know what it's going to be, though. I don't know.
Well, that's it.
But I change
That's
all the
exciting.
time. I change. Most artists who show in a gallery wants you to do the same thing over and over again. They want, 500, 1,000 versions of this. I'm sure you know that. And I've been lucky that I've found galleries or whatever, but I change every 10 years. I'm another part of my person comes out, and I follow that for a while. I have gotten more sort of creative and colorful, actually. I am starting to kind of lead my way through it.
That's pretty exciting.
I think the way that I come up with projects is a little bit different. So I don't necessarily think of them first and then go out and create them. I step back and look at what I've been inspired by and taken photos of, and then start to look for commonalities in those photos, and then put a project together. And usually I'll continue it from there, but it usually starts by, I've taken these 5 photos, and now let me study them and see why I took them, and then, start to build a project around it. So I let it kind of speak to me and how it connects to my life.
Again, with the inspiration. Yes, well, we're getting towards the end of this. I want to thank you both. Dick Cavett is not my only hero. I am also a big fan of James Lipton and Inside the Actor's Studio. So to wrap up tonight, I would like to do the Pivo Questionnaire. And since we have 2 of you, we'll bounce back and forth.
What is that? I know what that is.
You're gonna love it. You're gonna love it. So Greg, we'll start with you.
Would.
Yeah. What is your favorite word?
Oh, wow. Favorite word. Oh, Intuitive.
Yeah, there we go. Intuitive. All right, Sheila, what is your least favorite word?
I was just say my favorite word is dog.
Okay. Yeah, all right. All right. Fair enough. Then, Greg, what is your least favorite word? Yeah. Cat. All right. See, dog, cat. That's perfect. Sheila, what's a sound that you love?
A sound that I love. Oh, I'm thinking of the rustling of leaves in the trees. Maybe. I mean, that's what the first thing that came to my mind is.
That's what it should be. Greg, what's a sound you hate?
Lawnmowers.
I think we can all get an amen with that one. Greg, what turns you on?
Nature.
Okay. Sheila, what turns you off?
Color turns me on. What turns me off? What turns me off? Oh, pain, physical pain.
Pain. Okay. Greg, what is a profession other than photography that you would like to attempt?
Oh. Professional baseball player.
Okay.
Hey, all right.
All right. Sheila, what profession would you not like to attempt?
Not.
Not. What's something you absolutely would not want to do?
I don't know. There's so many things. I thought of digging ditches. Just do it. I just couldn't do it. But
All right, the final question, and cover your ears if you've got sensitive ears, but I want to know what each of your favorite curse word is.
Wow.
gosh, it would be the F word.
Yeah, okay. All right.
You could tell I was a teacher.
Well, then nothing.
All right, we'll just call it the F word.
Yeah.
I want to thank you both for being on the show tonight, for being here. I want to thank the Museum of the Southwest, everybody here for coming to the talk tonight. Ryan Shuchuk at 40 Wolves Production for putting together Art After Dark, and we will see you next week.